Hello and welcome to the Fishing Guide Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Wiegmann. We are here with John Mayo.
That's correct.
Man, did I say we were at the crappie compound?
We are at the world famous crappie compound.
I think old Les is sitting over there. He's hiding. He
He
said he
is.
couldn't take no more. He couldn't take no more podcast shows. He left, but which is good. It gives us more time to talk to you.
That's right.
You know, we're getting almost to that springtime.
We are.
Early springtime bite, and so you guide here on the three bigs, right?
Right, guide for Jade, guide service here on Enid, Grenada, and Sardis Lakes. And we will start guiding here within the next couple weeks.
Yeah. So right offhand, is the calendar looking pretty thick, or?
We are pretty full this spring. We do have a few availabilities, but pretty full.
Well, we'll try and put this up sooner than later so that people can give you a call and
Sure,
get
give us a call
booked up with
anytime.
you. Okay, so if they were to go fishing, say in a month, when you going to really start kicking off
So we'll go to Grizzly Jig the end of this month. As soon as we get back from Grizzly Jig, we will start guiding the first full weekend of February.
All right. So starting in February. All right.
Yes, sir. So right now we fish every weekend, even this time of year when we're not guiding. Just something that I absolutely love to do. Water conditions here right now, it's down to low winter pool.
Right.
They will start holding water 1st of February, but water conditions are extremely muddy right now.
Right.
So the only two lakes we can get on right now are Enid and Sardis Lake. Grenada's too low to put in.
All right.
But fish are in the mid-lake, scattered all over the lake. Quite a few fish hanging out around the river channels. Water temp when I fished Sunday was around 39 degrees. Right now, if you're looking for fish to catch, if the fish is not 3 foot or shallower in the water column, don't even bother. The shallower they are, more likely they are to bite.
Yep.
And they're just coming up, the surface to warm up in the warmest water. And just take a big profile bait. I'm using an 18-foot B&M Black Diamond. Putting a half-ounce egg weight pegged above my jig. Using a 1/4-ounce jig head.
Right.
And using mainly a crappie magnet slab magnet.
Okay.
And big profile bait for this muddy water.
What jig head are you using?
So I make my own for this time of year, but I do use a lot of the eye hole jigs for scent. But I make a jig head with an extra heavy wire hook. I like, those shallow fish on a hook set. I like a good stiff hook. But there's only basically 2 colors.
All right.
When you
This
come down.
is going to make it easy. Is this all year round?
This time of year.
Okay.
Basically.
All right. Spring.
Springtime.
Okay.
Ultra muddy water.
All right.
I've got an orange and chartreuse.
All right.
I have got Blake's Glow, which is a solid chartreuse, and then a white and chartreuse. Those are my 3 go-to colors that I basically, you can look at my boat right now. I've got 4 black diamonds rigged up, and that is the only 3 colors on them 4 poles.
Now, Blake don't want to hear this. None of them want to hear that you're only using those 3 colors.
It just a bright color, because water clarities, and it depends day to day. If you have a really bright sunshiny day, you could probably get away with a black and chartreuse or a trick or treat black and orange. But most days, those bright colors, I think they can just see it a little better.
Let's talk about someone who comes down here and wants to fish after February, start of February and stuff, and they start rolling in February, March. What are they going to do with you when they get in the boat?
So when we come down, start in February, we will primarily be live scoping. Water's still that time, so they will start holding water in these lakes, and they'll start coming up as we go through our spring rains.
Okay.
So month of February, we will primarily live scope.
Okay.
Going into the month of March, we will get out some fish. We'll start roaming, going up creek mouths, getting ready to pre-spawn pattern.
Right.
We'll take a 18-foot BGJP, run 2 single 1/4-ounce jigs on it with a slab curly or a crappie magnet on them.
Right.
And then we'll run, 5, 6, 7 foot of water looking for pre-spawn fish. Now, as we get into the later month of March, we will put all of that up. Our favorite way to fish. we will put up a 21-foot skeeter. We'll put up all the electronics, and we'll get the John boats out. And we're going to put a 10-foot B&M tree thumper in the boat, grab your favorite jig and a pair of waders, and get in the bushes.
Really?
And that is still our favorite way. If we can catch them wading, and it's usually the third and fourth week of March, first, second week of April is the prime 4 weeks. And it's funny the way these lakes lay out. So Grenada's the furthest lake south, then Enon, and then Sardis.
Right.
So it's usually about a 10-day, 2-week difference in each lake for the prime spawn, even though they're only 20, 30 miles apart.
Right.
So the third, fourth week of March, Grenada's on. You better have your waders and your John boat. It's as old school as it gets. We carry a chain stringer with us, a little dip net, and we get in the thickest, nastiest brush we can find.
How many people are you taking in the John boat time? 2 or 1?
We usually take 2.
Okay,
and
2.
We'll get in, cypress trees, ironwoods, that type stuff. And when I say no electronics, I use a stick to see how deep water we're in. But still my favorite way to fish. And, it's just something we grew up doing here on these lakes. And as long as the good Lord lets me get in and out of a John boat, that'll be the way I'll fish to the day I die.
Let's go back to when you're live scoping. Tell us how it lays out. Are you putting them first in the seed, or how's that work?
So usually when we're live scoping, and it's kind of a one person at a time deal.
Okay.
So what we'll do, I'll set on usually the left side of the boat is the side I like to run the trolling motor from.
Okay.
Set a customer there beside me on the right. And these fish are strictly roaming. They're not schooled up. They're white crappie.
All right.
So we will take off, look for an open water fish, just ease up on the fish. Once that fish breaks about 14 foot with an 18-foot black diamond, we'll get the boat stopped in position, let them present a bait to it, and it's early mornings. It's a little slower, but soon as the sun pops up and starts to warm the surface up, they get pretty active. And they're up feeding, and usually you present a bait on them, you'll see the fish kind of move, and you'll see him tilt up in that vertical position, and you can about count to 3, and he's going to bite.
Tell us now, sometimes the bite can get a little funky down here, right? Because you talked about the fish turning and going, and I've heard stories of people setting the hook, get a little antsy.
It will happen. A lot of times, and it's a day-to-day thing. Fish just react different, whether it's difference in conditions or sunlight or wind conditions, whatever it may be. But sometimes when they get real finicky on that bite, what we'll do is go down in bait size, go to a smaller presentation. If we see 3 or 4 fish come up, look at a bait, turn off the bait and leave it, then we'll go down to a smaller bait. I have got a jig that I tie myself that is a white head, white body, white tail.
Wow.
And it's something about white that they can see in that muddy water. And it's a 16th ounce jig head. Pretty small jig, not real bulky. Usually if you have plenty of sunlight, that small hair jig, they just absolutely cannot stand that white hair jig. And I think what it does is it simulates, shad. Cleaned some fish Saturday, and every fish I cleaned had 3 to 5 shad in each one of them.
Really?
They are feeding heavy right now. And eggs are starting to mature. Had some pretty good egg sacs in a couple females, and they're not anywhere. They're just starting to form right now. But they are definitely feeding and are getting ready for pre-spawn conditions.
All right, let's go a little deeper into the next. You said the next time when you put the live scoping poles away and you go to the next part?
So we will go to using a 18-foot B&M PST Pro Staff trailer.
Right.
We'll use 2 1/4-ounce jig heads.
So a double stack, right?
Double stack.
How far is the distance between
Usually
each one?
about 18 inches to
18
24
inches.
inches apart, depending
okay.
on depth of water that we're in.
Right.
And we just usually tie them with a loop knot directly to our line.
Okay.
A crappie magnet, slab magnet, is our bait of choice. They like a little action. This is when the water's starting to warm, 58 to 60 degrees, right at pre-spawn.
Okay.
And these fish are positioned out at the mouths of creeks. And we'll take these baits and just push them up shallow flats on the edge of creek channels. And
so you spider rigging? Or
we'll be spider rigging.
Oh, okay, all right. So you're spider rigging doing that.
Now,
setup.
we will have the live scope turned on.
Right.
And we usually run those baits around 0.6 mile an hour. Warmer days, we may get up to 0.8.
Really?
But we'll set that live scope out to about 50 foot, and we're strictly looking for those open water fish.
How heavy is your jig head?
1/4 ounce, 2 1/4 ounce. So we've got
2 1/4 ounce.
2 1/4 ounce. We've got a half ounce on each pole.
All right.
And absolutely fun way. Those big males, once that water warms up, get pretty aggressive.
That's a pretty fast, as spider rigging goes. That's because you're going from that to like power trolling.
That's right.
Here at the compound, everyone's going through 300 miles an hour, and you think they got a 300 Mercury on the back of their boat. But
so my idea, early in the morning, we may start out a little slower. Water temps are a little cooler, cool spring morning. So we may start out around 0.5, but as that sun warms up, if you start peeling off layers, I always say go as fast as you can go as long as the fish will bite it.
Wow.
And so just let the fish dictate. And another key to that technique, as we're running creek channels and all, never run just in a straight line. If you'll take that boat, turn it, say if you're right on a creek channel, and say your right side of your boat is over the creek, when you turn those baits and back and forth, those baits rising and falling, just like pulling crankbaits, a lot of times will trigger a bite.
Yeah.
So that kind of dictates, if you'll pay attention to the details of when you make that turn. If they bite on the outside, you may want to speed up because that bait has sped up. Okay. If they bite on the inside pole, then you may want to slow down.
All right.
So just let the fish tell you what they want.
Okay. Now let's give them 3 tips for coming down. Let's say they're coming down going fishing in Mississippi. They're pretty excited. They're pretty pumped up. They've been hearing all this about all these big crappie that are down here. Of course, we know that your limits have changed some.
They have
for conservation purposes. I think it has less to do with the electronics, and it has more to do with just the amount of pressure that you're getting on the lakes. Because Archie-Buckler, is not having any water anymore, so they can't. 1/4 of the people can't go there, so that all of a sudden now you got another influx of people coming. If they were coming down and going fishing, what's a couple of tips that you could give them?
So probably one of my key tips, and when you talk about the big 4, which is now the big 3, this is what I think of the mecca of crappie fishing. Everyone wants to come here, chase a 3-pound fish.
Right.
So number 1, you come down February, March during the spawn. My first tip would be buy the best Lake Master card you could find, or best map of the lake that you can find. Be extremely careful because the lakes are shallow, full of stumps. We take it for granted. A lot of us have grown up on these lakes, and it's like driving the back road to our home. But first tip would be extremely careful. The next tip would be extremely patient.
Okay.
A lot of times in the springtime, and my dad told me this a million times, that 90% of the fish are in 10% of the water.
Right.
So be extremely patient, especially when you're targeting the bigger fish. These fish, just like chasing a big buck, they didn't get that old by being stupid.
Right.
So be extremely patient. Third key would be And probably the best tip would be pay attention to the details. When you catch a fish, look at your map and see why that fish was there.
Right.
And try to dictate that over and over, because a lot of times these lakes have silted in through the years so much. There's not a bridge around Enid Lake that I haven't jumped off of as a kid. Now all of those creeks where there's bridges that I jumped off, now the creeks are a foot, 2 foot deep.
Right. Silted in.
They have silted in. So these fish, growing up, Brad, I take it for granted, but I literally grew up fishing with my mom and dad. They would make a pallet and put me in a John boat at 2 and 3 years old. And I still remember where all these creeks and ditches and all were as a kid, but it's all silted in. So when we say a contour line during the springtime,
right,
we're not talking about a significant drop. We're talking about 6 to 10 inches, maybe 12 inches. These creek channels, they're not there anymore. But it's just a slight indentation where they were. And these fish still use those ditches and creek channels just like we use highways.
Yep.
So pay extreme close attention to the details of where you catch each fish, because that will tell you another place to go look. A lot of times you will look and look and look, and these fish will be out in open water, and they will be multiple fish in a very small area.
Right.
And it's just paying attention to the details. And, these fish get chased hard down here in the spring. I mean hard, 7 days a week. And if you pay attention to the details of where these fish are at, you'll definitely catch more fish.
I think we have to give them a fourth tip. And the fourth tip is to hire John to take you out fishing at least the first couple days or a day or a couple days, and let him kind of show you to get, first of all, get around safely. So if nothing else, you've saved your lower unit, or you've saved your prop. So whatever money it costs to hire John or some other guide, it's well worth it to get around. So,
it is. It can be extremely dangerous down here in springtime. It really can be. And that's the biggest thing, have a safe and fun trip.
That's right. So that takes us to Tackle Time. Tackle Time sponsored by PICO Lures. PICO Lures has a complete line of hard and soft baits. Everything you want to catch crappie on, but also bass and walleye and stripers. And shoot, they catch everything on those suckers. So you can check them out at picolures.com. John, if you want to get in touch with you, how they get in touch with you?
So you can look us up on Facebook at JH Guide Service. Give me a call. My phone number is 662-458-1122. We'll be at Grizzly Jig. Hope to see everyone there. And have any questions, just give us a call.
All right, there you go. Like I always like to say, keep your hooks sharp and your lures in the water.